the video already?
Yeah, so
Because
it
I
is,
don't.
yeah, it's live right now. So we
Okay.
are live streaming. We have, yeah, so we have like 18 people tuning in. There'll be more as we continue along. So if you're joining, welcome to the stream. My name is Jonathan Weinberger. I am the Authorized Unity Instructor for the Ultimate Guide to Game Development with Unity, the English version. With me today is Carlos López. He is a professional VR developer. He is from Mexico. Yeah, so it is. Yeah, it's live right now. My bad. He's a professional VR developer, as well as a contributor to the official Unity certification program. So, Carlos, thank you for agreeing to come on the live AMA with me. I really appreciate it. How is it
Thank you
going in
for having me.
Mexico? Awesome. All right,
It's
so
quite hot actually.
yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
All right, so we only have 60 minutes. It's going to go by really quickly. So there are some hot topics I really want to get out of you, and then we're going to take it to the Discord chat. If you're on the Discord chat, it means you are a student inside the course, and you'll have priority over there, and then we'll check out the YouTube live stream as well. So the first question I have for you is, how long have you been working in Unity and programming in general?
Well, it's been almost 10 years now. I started coding games for Nintendo Wii using well, some other engines first, and then I switched to Unity 2.0, something like that. It wasn't called 2.0, it was called 2.x. But yeah, it was kind of a 2.0 version.
Very cool. Yeah. Okay. So you've been using Unity for at least 8 years then, because I picked it up at 2.6 when it just became free.
Yeah.
Okay.
When
Very
they switched
cool.
from indie to free, right?
Right. Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. 2.6 is when it became free, and that's when I got hooked on it. And then once 3.x came around, this game called Richard got released, and I was hooked. Like, this is the engine that I'm gonna make my career out of. So,
Yeah.
what? Okay, so you contributed to the official gameplay programming certification that's coming out, I believe, in May of 2018. So, what can you tell us about that? I know you can't talk about like any of the questions that are on it, but what is the certification? Who is that for?
Okay. Yeah, we're not sure if that's coming on May yet, but it might be somewhere around.
Gotcha.
The first quarter of 2018, and well, mainly the main goal is to have a profile of the Unity build developer. This certification, I don't know if you take the last certification. This one is totally different. This one is more about already Unity professionals working with maybe 2 or 3 year experience out there, and they just want to. Unity wants to make sure about the knowledge these people has, because it's not quite a standard yet.
Okay, I gotcha. So it's more so for like entry-level programmers who are already in the field who want to get certified. So like maybe if they're self-taught, they
Yeah.
don't necessarily have a college degree, they can get this certification that says you are qualified as an entry-level programmer at a minimum. Is that right?
Yeah, if you have like maybe 2 or 3 year experience using Unity, that's the certification you are going for.
Okay, very cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
And then your role was pretty much you were in charge of kind of making the questions for that test, right?
That's right. We were. I wasn't the only one. We were 10 people from all around the world
Very
making the
cool.
questions for the certification. We wrote like almost 200 questions. The certification is not going to be 200 questions long. It's just going to be something around 40 to 60
Okay,
questions.
very cool.
But
So just like a practical exam that says you know what you're doing in Unity, you're a software engineer, and you're good to go.
yeah, well, we wrote 200 because not all the tests are going to be the same. So you might have one version, and another developer might have a different version.
Gotcha. Very cool.
Yeah.
And I think it's distributed through Pearson, who is like this major testing center around the world, and it gives it that credibility, which is pretty neat.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's going to be only for the beta certifications, but for now, yeah, Pearson is the place we're going to be applying for the exam.
Okay, very cool. Awesome. So you are a professional VR developer. You work for a company called, it's behind you, what does it say? Cosmo
Oh,
or? Yeah,
you
what is
can
the,
see the
yeah, there you go. Okay, so Cosmo, it's like Cosmo GN or something like that, right?
Cosmogonia.
Okay, cool. And so you guys are a professional VR company in Mexico, and you guys work with VR, AR, and mixed reality. Is that right?
We mainly work with VR. We have done some just for fun AR, and we haven't done any mixed reality yet. I we try a little bit of HoloLens only, but I don't think it's a viable product yet. But yeah, we're still analyzing that.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, I mean, as far as HoloLens goes, there's a company called Magic Leap. I'm sure you're aware of them. They're
Yeah.
doing the mixed reality. Who like they no one has even seen their product yet, but they've raised like $500 million for this headset that is supposedly the best experience for mixed reality. And if you're not sure what mixed reality is, if you're watching the stream, it's virtual reality. It's a headset, but it's augmented reality. So people
Yeah.
watching this stream, a lot of people are interested in VR and AR, right? So it's such a hot topic. They want to know how can you get started with AR and VR. So when it comes to Unity, there's a question from Blind VR. Um, what is how do you get started with VR and Unity, and how much experience do you have to have before you can start making a VR app?
Well, you had to have some unit experience, and it depends which kind of VR you are going or aiming for. In my case, I started doing some cardboard VR examples. Actually, you can download some samples from the asset store and just play with those a little bit. If you have an Android phone, that's going to work basically out of the box. And I will start there. And now we are developing for HTC Vive, which might be a little bit more complex, but not that complex actually.
Right, yeah, the Vive is amazing. I've experienced a
Well,
lot of them, the Vive and as well as the Oculus and DK2. And in my experience, the Vive's one-to-one ratio of like accuracy and one-to-one touch is insane. I think the Vive
yeah,
is incredible. Um,
super accurate.
yeah, definitely. So what is, for those listening who don't know, the difference between augmented reality and virtual reality?
Well, basically, augmented reality is you are looking at the real world and you are putting some virtual stuff on top of it, and virtual reality is all fake. All the whole world is virtual, not
Right.
mixed with real stuff like a table or a chair or stuff like that.
Okay, very cool. Okay, so another question. I got a question from Argentus. Do you think that general consumer VR, such as like the Oculus or the Vive, experience is going to overtake the gaming experience?
You mean like the gaming experience in general, like PC console
Yeah,
and stuff
yeah.
like
Like
that?
eventually, right now we
I
have.
don't think
Go ahead.
we're going that way. I mean, I think there's room for everything. There's, for example, I consider myself more of a console player or a PC player, but I have really fun times using VR. It's just not there's not so many quality products on VR yet. You can find some, but not as many as on gaming on a console or on PC.
Right. Yeah, I'd say the biggest hurdle right now for VR, right, is VR is so cool when you're experiencing it, but the biggest struggle for me is the movement system. You can't walk in VR. You have to like use that teleportation type movement.
Yeah.
Unless you have this thing called the Omni, I believe it's called, which is like this thing you can kind of put yourself in and run in place, but it's like $1,200,
Yeah.
and it's not at a consumer standpoint. It's
Yeah.
arguable that the Vive, as well as the Oculus, being I think 400 for the Oculus, 600 for the Vive, it's arguable that those aren't even consumer ready price points yet. So I
Yeah.
think, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, you can move a little bit using the Vive and also the new Oculus, but this just maybe I don't know. I think it's 5 by 5 foot
Right, yeah, like a
area,
5 foot, yeah,
so
like a 5 foot
it's not
radius.
it's
Yeah.
not much. Okay.
All right, so let's see here. I got a question from, let's see here. Okay, so Lucky Ducky asks, are there any risks to the end user you have to watch out for when developing VR?
Any risk? You mean like healthy, health,
Probably. I would assume
or
she's or I would assume they're referring to like motion sickness. Like how big of a problem is motion sickness when you're developing VR?
well, I'm uh, well, you cannot use VR if you are under 13. So that's maybe the biggest consideration you need to have. Um, you cannot if you have maybe some eye health issue. You need to check that first with a doctor. But in general, it's pretty safe. I mean, unless the developer has some crazy camera
Right,
movements,
right, exactly.
uh,
From
uh,
from a
you're
development
going to be
standpoint,
safe. Yeah.
yeah, it's like from a development standpoint, you can actually control the motion blur and field of zoom and all that, and that's like when you're moving around, like the developer, if they want to, they can totally screw with the headset and make you vomit
Yeah.
over the floor. But ultimately, right, that's I'd say the biggest thing in my experience when developing VR is to always keep in mind motion blur. Which was a big issue with the first Oculus. It was just awful. Like you just couldn't fix it, and people after 5 minutes would just get dizzy and have to stop.
Yeah.
And I believe that issue's fixed in the DK2. I haven't tried the DK2 yet, but with the Vive, I know it's like flawless when created properly.
Yeah, I mean, ideally you have to be, well, you have some basic considerations. You have to be around 90 FPS per second. And I think the problem with the first Oculus DK was it was running at around 50 to 60 FPS. And that was a big problem actually. But
Right.
nowadays, any uh, end user device has that problem. Like I said, unless the developer has done something wrong, everything should be fine.
Okay, cool. So here, I want to hop over real quick to YouTube. We got some live chats coming in. So Esther asks, "Are all the headsets of VR the same?"
Well, they're quite similar. They're not the same. Or I don't know if you're talking about specs or just the way they work on. I mean, looking at the development side, but technology is quite similar. None of them are the same.
What about programming wise? Can I use the same program to create an app for Google Cardboard that I could for, say, the Vive or the Oculus?
You can. You just have to do to have some considerations on it. For example, if you are going to run about your assets and need to aim for the lowest capable device,
Right.
and stuff like that. I mean, you can figure something out to make your game or your app work on both.
Right, and let's also keep in mind, guys, when you're developing like VR, especially for the Vive and the Oculus, when you're developing these high-end VR applications, most of our
Yeah.
computer graphics don't even run what's required for the Vive. Like, if you're gonna go shell out $600-700 for the Vive today, make sure you also have like a GTX 1080, which I think is like a $500 graphics card. Otherwise, you're just gonna waste your money because you won't even be able to run it. And that's really important.
The new 1060s also run VR, but only some models. So
Yeah,
you have
yeah.
to be careful. You want to spend maybe $150 less. You just have to be careful that the card says VR ready or something like
Right.
that.
So if anyone wanted to get started making VR or AR apps in Unity today, how do they start? Are there like plugin packages from like for instance, Oculus is natively integrated
Yeah.
in Unity. What about
Yeah.
Vive? If I want to develop for the Vive, is there a plugin from them that I can use in Unity?
There's a plugin, but you can also work natively with Vive. I'm using the plugin right now because it has already some tools that are really helpful. For example, the other day I was just implementing a fade in fade out system, which the plugin already has, and it was quite good. So I just throw a method there, and everything's working now. If you're going to use the native Unity component, you are going to manually create those kind of behaviors.
Very cool. All right, so and that's for virtual reality. Now, what about everyone who's interested in mixed reality or augmented reality? What are the so there's two main competitors. What are the two top assets to create augmented reality apps with?
Well, I have only used Buforia,
Yeah.
the one from Qualcomm. That's maybe the most popular,
Right.
and it's quite. If you're using Unity, it's quite easy to manage, and yeah, for starters, I will try that one. There's another popular one which
Well,
I
there's
just forgot the
ARKit.
name.
ARKit just got released by Apple, and the Unity plugin is now available as well. But
Yeah,
it's only works on the iOS.
I haven't tried that, but I'm assuming this is quite simple to use also because
Yeah.
it's already integrated with Unity.
Very cool.
So yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if some of the streamers know this or not, but it's in my bio that I've developed AR applications for like Coca-Cola and AT&T and an elevator company called ThyssenKrupp, and we would use Vuforia, and Vuforia had this thing called slam tracking, which allowed us to like it had the best tracking to where you can get a 1-to-1 scale image, and then you can walk away from that image, and you could keep the image rendering, which I hear ARKit has completely like blown the competition away. And ARKit is on top, but I've not tested ARKit yet. But I do know that Vuforia is awesome.
I think if you're going to start with AR or VR, don't worry about the libraries. I mean, just if you're just starting, any library is going to work for learning. So just pick the one you like, and yeah, start with that. And if you later you want to switch to a different one, it's going to be quite easy.
Right. So in your VR games, have you experienced with post-processing at all?
Yeah. Just you just have to be really careful with it, because like you were saying just a minute before, motion blur should not be there.
Right. Yeah. Don't turn on motion blur. Right. You're gonna get motion sickness.
Motion sickness. So, but you can use some small bloom, not too big one.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, color grading also works, and yeah, just don't go too crazy with post processing, because that might have some weird results on VR. Yeah.
That's awesome. So, all right. So before our stream, we talked about you were able to share an early prototype of what you guys are actually working on. Is that right?
Yeah. Actually, I send you I send you a video. That's actually from a month ago. We've been working with that in that project for maybe something like, and yeah. Are you going to show it right now, or?
Yeah, it's actually on the stream. So if you want to go ahead and tell us what it is we're actually looking at.
Actually, well, I'm looking at the stream, but I think it's quite laggy on my side. But
do you see the concept art?
I still don't see the concept art. Oh, now it's showing. Okay. Yeah. So this game is about it's called Interdimensional Pest Control. It's about this hero going through a lot of problems, a lot of pest problem along the different dimensions. So he travels along dimensions, helping people get rid of the pest problem. And well, the main mechanic is it's a bow and arrow mechanic. And if you are going to show the video or already looking at the video, you can see that we have some scenario where you can it's sort of like a tower defense, but in this case you are defending payload payload which is behind you, and you had to just escort that payload until
Nice.
the end of the road.
So and this is a tower defense game. I don't think I've ever actually seen a tower defense game in VR. So we actually have a video clip to share with you guys. So I'm going to go ahead and run that. I'm going to probably mute our audio so it doesn't conflict with the game audio. But this video is about a minute and a half, so I will see you guys afterwards. All right, so that is, and that game is called, what is that game called?
Interdimensional pest control.
Interdimensional pest control. It reminds me of kind of like Rick and Morty. That's pretty neat.
Kind of, yeah.
That's awesome. So that's such an interesting mechanic, though. And you know, when it comes to talking about like VR as taking over the gaming world, for me, the setback is how you have to travel in the virtual environment, which, as you can see there, you're teleporting to your platform. However, that is the first time I've ever seen a tower defense game, and it actually looks really fun. So you did all the code mechanics for that, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Very cool. So someone asked in the live chat here on YouTube, they asked if, how did you master C# concepts? What's your journey? What advice do you have to mastering C#?
Well, I don't think I have mastered all the C# concepts, but yeah, well, a lot of it actually is you just have to, I think you just have to practice and learn from a really nice source. I mean, you have to, because there's a lot of ways you can learn out there. You can a lot of pages, you can do some research on the internet, but not all of them are reliable. So you have to be sure those places are reliable. So you're sure that you are learning the proper way. And if you are trying something and it's not working for you, just try something different. It's not everybody's going to learn the same way, so not everything is going to work for anybody. Okay, so just try that. If you're feeling like you're struggling on learning any concept about C#, I would recommend first look somewhere else, and if not, if that doesn't work, look somewhere else. There's like many places you can learn about it.
So Lucky Ducky 10 in the Discord chat has a question.
Okay.
In terms of game genres, what do you find gives the end user experience the best? Like, what is the best experience in VR? If you were to create any genre, what's the most fun when playing VR?
Well, that depends on the user. I mean, there's a lot of users that like really passive games. I mean, more like they don't want to have any tension on when they're playing VR or any platform, console, mobile, and but there are other users that they really like tension and action and stuff like
Right.
that. For example, if you saw that video we just played, uh, you can have well, we were thinking of having a just regular VR defense, but we decided to make it a little bit faster and more action about it, and that kind of works for us when we are playing on VR,
Right.
since we are looking to create a pretty intense game.
So that archery effect, right? How realistic is it? How like does it feel realistic, the archery effect? Like do you actually have to pull back with the controllers?
You have to pull back and the more you pull back, the longer
farther it
your arrow
goes.
is going. Yeah.
Very cool. So you're actually using real physics simulation for the arching projectile, is that right?
Yeah, actually the arrow is quite simple. It's just just a reed body with some mass where you can apply some. You just add some force to it when you release your controller button, your controller trigger, and the reed body does all the work doing the curve, and the tip of the arrow has also some code that made the arrow go the rotation.
Right, the arch. Yeah, gives
towards
it that arch.
yeah.
Very
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, I'm sure.
It's not super complex. It's quite simple, but it feels really nice.
All right, good. Yeah, no, I imagine that's you know, I imagine if I was playing virtual reality like with like The Legend of Zelda, like my favorite thing would be like with the Wii, right? With the Wii, you had I forgot the name of the Legend of Zelda game on the Wii, but you had to actually like make the motion and fling it. I've played the Vive tech demo, and it's so accurate. It just feels like so good being able to shoot like a bow and arrow. It's pretty neat.
The lab demo, right?
Right. Yeah. The lab demo. Yeah. And if you're not aware, guys, Oculus is Facebook's company, and the Vive is backed by Steam. And then there's also the PlayStation has the Sony VR as well. I forgot what it's called, but I think it's PSVR.
Yeah, PlayStation VR.
Yeah. All right, so a really popular topic that I love to bring up because as several of our students are all across the world, and they take courses on Udemy like our course, The Ultimate Guide to Game Development. And the reason why they do that is because it's educational, but also it's affordable. Like for the price of takeout, you can learn to make games. So what is your take in the VR space? What's your take on college education? Do you need a degree to get a career in the field of VR?
No, I mean not on the field of VR. I mean you can grab the basic concepts in just maybe a few days or a few weeks, and just like when you started making games for pretty much every platform, you just have to experience and experiment on mechanics, and if you are a programmer, you need to really get the hang of the libraries you are using and how to make the most of them.
Right.
That's the way. But you don't actually need a career for that, especially for VR. You can learn the basic concepts really quick.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'm so strong about my opinion on the college degree. It's you get what you put into this world, and society is not going to define your success. So it's if you want to make it happen, you can make it happen on your own. Eventually, I'll get someone on this show who says, yes, you need that college degree. But ultimately, you can do it without. I've seen in real world situations, the college degree gets you through the door, but it does not always guarantee you the job. At the end of the day, those who are starting to program on their own, whether they're 14, 11, or 16, before they go to college, those guys are so far ahead of anyone who has a college degree because of the real world experience.
Yeah, actually, I can talk a bit about that because I'm a college professor, and the problem with getting a career or a major on this kind of technologies is when you end your career, they are almost obsolete because new technologies are going to be out there.
Right.
So it's moving way too fast for college.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No. Definitely. I mean, and that's the thing I've experienced too with college grads. They're so book smart, yet they just have no practical real world experience, and employers don't want them because they don't want it's in today's world. It's too expensive to train someone. So using courses like ours and YouTube and reading a book on your own and just making games, that saves your employer from having to train you, and you can just start running on day one.
That happens a lot, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So you guys, your company did something super awesome with Google recently. Is that right?
Yeah. We have a super strong art team here, so they asked us to build like I don't know, like 500 assets for them for this new platform they have called Poly.
Right.
So
and what is Poly?
Well, you can take maybe you can say sort of to have a Unity reference. It's sort of like an asset store for with assets ready for VR and AR projects.
Very cool. Yeah. So guys, like Poly is basically it's a marketplace to build out your worlds in virtual reality or augmented reality. And the reason why that's so unique is because you can't go, like if I'm building a PC game or maybe a Vive game, I can go on the asset store and I can pick any model I want and I can run it just fine, assuming you have a great graphics card. When it comes to augmented reality and cheap virtual reality, like I'm talking the Google Cardboard and like the Samsung Gear VR where you just put your phone in it, poly count is so important. You can't put a high-res 3D model in there. It won't even render. It's gonna chug. Your frame rate's gonna drop down to like 5. So it's important to have very low poly assets that are still highly polished, and I believe that's what Google was trying to solve with Poly, right? Is it's just a marketplace for AR VR content, and you can build your world using these appropriate polygon count models. Is that right?
Yeah. They are already VR ready, AR ready, so you don't have to worry about it.
Very cool. So let's see here. And if you're interested in checking out Poly, guys, to build your virtual worlds, you can just go to poly.google.com, poly.google.com, and you'll find that marketplace.
Yeah.
Let's see here. So just going to check out the stream for questions on YouTube. Let's see here. Oh, thank you, Esther. Yes, Twilight Princess was the game I was referring to. Okay, Musala, we answered your question. The FPS is not only factor. Let's see here.
I say some people that virtual nodes, and they say that helps. I haven't tried that virtual nodes, and because I haven't. I don't think we need that virtual nodes. I mean, we haven't received any feedback about motion sickness from our game, but I don't know. Maybe some way to avoid motion sickness.
So what can you tell us about the canvases in VR? How do you how do you go about designing a canvas in VR? Because it's not just a 2D space like on a PC game or console or mobile. How do you go about designing something that's virtually in a 3D world and it has to stay with you?
Yeah, well, that's actually a quite good question, because on the video you saw some UI elements there.
Right.
Those elements are not there anymore because for some people trying to focus on something so close to your face was kind of getting them motion sickness. Yeah, we removed those. On VR, you usually try to make all canvases world space canvases, and you're going to try going or you need to the canvas to go with you with the player. You just need to maybe make something like a hologram or something that you can activate with a button, and we find out that putting that on maybe on your hand or on your weapon, something like that works fine.
Very cool. So what is your take on like all these new gloves are coming out for VR now that have like haptic touches? What are your take on like integrations for those? So like when you're developing VR, you have the option of using those touch controls that Oculus has as well as like Vive. But how do you feel about like would you pay an extra like $300 to have a glove where you would actually be able to feel the virtual objects in your hand?
I really want to try those ones, and the problem is the product we're developing right now. We're trying to make it available for everybody on Steam, okay? But it doesn't make much sense to add compatibility with those kind of peripherals because almost anybody has those at home. So investing on development that compatibility, it's not going to be worth it at least for now. But I really want to try some for just for me to experience.
Yeah, definitely. I think before, like that's a consumer price point issue too, right? It's like you're gonna pay an extra $300 so you could feel your virtual environment.
Yeah.
And I think what's gonna happen with VR, and I think I was starting to see it today, is like we have these things called in America. I don't know if you have them in Mexico, but we have these things called Dave and Buster's, which are like these arcades, and they're starting to bring like virtual reality into those arcades
Yeah.
with an omnidirection because it's they can afford a $2,000 package to play and
Yeah.
experience VR. And I think that's what's going to start happening is it's going to kind of spread like that before it gets to a consumer price point.
Actually, we have some, and we here at Cosmogonia did some work for stuff like that, but I cannot talk about that. But yeah, but we have those, and those are a really cool way to. If you haven't tried VR, that's a really nice place to go.
So Lucky Duck in the Discord asked, how much longer is development time working with VR?
Yeah,
What are the unique setbacks?
great question. I mean, I will say it always depends on your project. You want to make really simple stuff. It's pretty much the same. The only time it's going to take you longer is to getting used to on how VR works, and also the thing I found it extends your development time the most is testing, because you always have to test every change I made on the code. I need to grab my controllers and then put on my visor and try that, maybe standing out of my chair or my desktop.
Right.
And that takes a lot of time if you are adding like you try maybe new changes, I don't know, 5-6 times a day. That's going to really add some time to the development.
So there's so Funky Punk in the Discord brought up a great point. So are you familiar with a movie called Ready Player One? Have you seen the trailer for
I,
it?
I read the book.
Oh,
I
okay,
read the
cool.
book.
Yeah, so it was a book. They're making a new movie that comes out in like a few months.
I know.
And if for those who haven't seen it, Ready Player One is this insane oasis where virtual reality has just it's there. Like the consumer price point, everyone has it. The rich, the poor, everyone is using VR. And you live your life. You live your life entirely in VR, and then you have like these body suits, and you can feel pain and everything inside this virtual element. And the synopsis is that like basically the creator of this oasis
Yeah.
dies, and he hides an Easter egg. And if you find this Easter egg, you basically own the world of VR.
Yeah.
And everyone goes crazy for that. How do you ever think that's like, is that our future? Is that where VR is going to take us?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, I think it's going to be doable, technology speaking. Um, but the thing is, it's not only about having the technology available to do that. It's just like you also need to have the resources to build a whole world inside the VR. and it's something more complicated than maybe having these haptic suits that they show on the trailer.
Right, the time it would take to build out like an actual world.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I know a company that has these resources to do that. At least not right now. Maybe some sort of community open source development and I don't know, stuff might work on. Everyone is having something inside the Oasis that might work, but it's hard to say. It's hard to manage a project that big. It's not about having the technology available. It's more about that.
Although that would actually bring in some like really interesting points. I haven't read the book, but I'm sure in the movie you can actually purchase. You might, I don't know for sure, but I imagine you could probably purchase virtual real estate. And that, like, for instance, we have wealth gaps here in the world. I imagine it would all carry over to VR as well, where you have virtual real estate and people live in that world, and like everything would just history would just repeat itself. We would have wealth gaps as well. And yeah, it'd be like basically like Joe said in the chat, Second Life VR. Second Life, if you've ever played that, that was a game where basically it was open world, and I think they actually did sell real estate in that game in the beginning. I remember reading an article, and people would pay like thousands of dollars for this real estate because it was so finite. So downfall of humanity.
Maybe I don't know. Depends on how you look at it.
Let's see here. So EMFPC in the chat asks, what do you need to know of VR for the Unity certification? Feel free to say you can't answer that.
Yeah, I cannot answer that, but there's some VR concepts on the certification. I cannot talk about details, but yeah, just have in mind that you have to be a developer with 2 to 3 years experience. So consider that it's not like super advanced, but it's you have to know the basic. You create a small VR game on your own, maybe you're going to be able to answer all the certification questions about VR.
So that's all right. So that pretty much like solves that, right? Is this certification is definitely for those who have some level of experience. You should probably be an entry-level programmer, right?
Yeah, entry-level means you maybe have released 1 or 2 mobile games or small stuff, or even if you have maybe a nice project from college, that also counts.
Okay.
And but nothing super difficult. But if you have, I don't know if some of you guys took the last certification, it's nothing like that. This is way more difficult, but it's not super difficult.
Right, and you guys also just released the technical. I think I think both of them are actually in beta, right? If anyone's interested in signing up to take these tests, I think Unity sent out an email to a lot of their subscribers. If you subscribe to their newsletter, you can actually take the test for free as a beta tester, and if you pass it, they're going to send you some awesome like Unity swag as well as a certificate. And I believe they're doing the same thing now for the technical artist certification as well. So the technical artist is like the art side of things, the animation, the rigging, a little bit of shader development.
Yeah. So that certification is going to be built on January. So I cannot also talk much about it, but yeah, it's coming, and it's going to be 2 certifications on the art side.
Very cool. So when you were who reached out to who for this opportunity to help shape this certification? Did you reach out to Unity, or did Unity reach out to you?
Okay, give me a second. Just I just need to plug my computer to power source.
Okay, no worries.
Sorry.
Don't want to have a power failure. Let's see here. Let me just check the chat, see how everyone's doing. Comments about today's Magic Leap announcement. Ooh, funny. I mentioned Magic Leap in the beginning. I think Magic Leap has the best mixed reality, and no one has even seen their product. Learn to discover. If you can post a link in the Google chat. We can pull it up and take a quick look at it. I was not aware of any announcement they made today. So apparently, Magic Leap. Are you aware of the Magic Leap announcement?
Yeah, I was about to comment. We can talk about that after I answered the previous question. About the who reached who on the Unity certification. Yeah, I was already working with Unity. I've been working with Unity for I don't know, like a year and a half, something like that. And but I was just doing some of the. If you guys are familiar with the courseware course on the Unity page, that was the course that prepares you to do the previous certification, and I translated that to Spanish. So they reached me to just they asked me if I was up to that task. So I said yes. I started with Unity, and they still send me some work once in a while.
Right. I mean, you got right, and that's kind of how you got the localization job for the Spanish version of this course.
Yeah, that's also how I got that. It was weird.
That's awesome.
I never tried to reach Unity. They kind of tried. They kind of reached me. So yeah, that I still don't know how that actually worked, but.
Yeah, it's trust me, I know how awesome of a connection it is to have, so it's pretty awesome. Okay, so what can you tell us about the Magic Leap announcement? Well, tell us what it was and what are your thoughts on it?
Well, again, they announced it. I saw they announced it this morning.
They released the actual headset.
They haven't released. They announced. They put some renders on the webpage.
Right.
And they say on the webpage that it's going to be the SDK is going to be available early 2018. So yeah, I think we don't know the price yet. We don't know what it's going to be capable of.
Right.
Actually, so we don't know much yet. So yeah, they just released the renders on the product.
I gotcha.
It looks quite cool. It looks a lot nicer than the HoloLens. But yeah, I just need to play with it a little bit to have some comments.
So here, I think are you guys hearing feedback? I think you might be hearing feedback from your mic a bit. It's like making let's see. Okay, there we go. All right, now you're good. Okay, yeah. It actually looks pretty cool. So these aren't like actually are these prototypes, or are these just kind of designed to see like how the public's going to react to these?
I think these are going to be the final renders for the products. But I'll learn to discover. Just post it on Discord. I think we should also post it on the YouTube.
Yeah, I'm looking at the headset right now. It looks.
Can you do that?
Oh, put it on the stream.
Oh, you can't. Oh.
No, okay. Well, I won't be able to here. No, it's it's all locked in. If you want to know what these goggles look like, just Google the Magic Leap announcement and its first page. What's interesting to me is that it's so funny. Magic Leap raised $500 million to just have an idea of doing this. And from what they've released, it looks like it's the best. But what I love about this is Google Glass, like from 10 years ago, is what this is, and nobody cared about it. And now everybody wants this. So it's really interesting to see how just technology changes, and maybe if it gets there too quickly, the world isn't ready for it. But now that Google is like, fine, we're just going to kill the project. Years later, we want it, and now we have something like this where you're going to be able to just walk around in San Francisco, and you're just going to be able to augment your world, basically.
Yeah. And yeah, I totally agree with that comment. How many times do we hear about the product that came too early and people wasn't ready for it? Okay.
Yeah.
That this is Google Glass 2.0.
Right. Yeah. Now everyone's so crazy about it. And if you guys want to see the best demo of this, it's a bunch of students in like a gymnasium, and out of nowhere, this like whale pops up and does like a splash, and the rendering of it is just insane. And you know, the fact that that could be reality is, man, this technology has come such a far way. So we only got about 10 minutes left, so we're gonna wrap up with some last minute questions. One thing I want to ask is the project you're working on, that pest control game, when is that due to be released? And what platforms are you going to release it on?
Just we're aiming to have it on Steam early 2018, and only on Steam. We're going to do our early access. We just have like I said, maybe 4 months of work on that demo. The video you saw, it's just from a month ago. We have a new level now, and the thing about I don't think I mentioned it, but the worlds on this game are built dynamically, so you don't know what you are going to get. When you start the game, the worlds are built procedurally, like like some people say, but yeah, you know what kind of enemy are you going to get, or what kind of scenario. You just had to wait until you're playing.
Cool.
That gives you infinite possibilities on replayability.
Right. That's important. Yeah, if you ever want replayability in your game, look into procedural generation, and you'll have infinite maps. So okay, so I want to give you some like their shameless plugs. What is olaunity.wordpress.com?
Oh, that's a really old blog. I used to feed like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, which I just cleaned that up a little bit and make it public again. So because at that time I just didn't have the time to continue posting on it, but now that we have the ultimate guide to game development with Unity, I thought it was going to be useful for maybe extra clarifications on some concepts and stuff like that. So I decided to open that again.
Very cool.
And
yeah. So and do you still update it with like tutorials?
I just opened that again like 2 days ago. So
Okay.
the plan is I'm going to be putting some stuff there. I don't know, maybe some certification stuff. I haven't had the time to plan that, but since we are finishing the year, we need to close some projects before we go into holidays. And after that, or maybe on holidays, I will start working there.
Very cool. So Blind VR has a question. Is it hard to control pacing, building worlds dynamically?
It is hard to control pacing. I mean, gaming in general, pacing is one of the main things you have to care, and it's always difficult, and it's actually a little bit more difficult on VR. The main thing is the main cause, I think, is because you cannot control camera rotation, or where you can, but you should never do that.
Yeah, don't rotate avoid rotating the camera at all costs.
Yeah, actually, you didn't see it on the video. I was like trying to experiment something with cameras, because you don't supposed to have cinematic scenes on VR games.
Oh, why? That's interesting. Why?
Because the camera is going to point always to your to where your head is pointed at, and you're trying to maybe do some panning and zooming and stuff like that. You're going to get
right. Too much motion. Yeah, you don't want that.
Too much motion that your head's not controlling or your eyes are not controlling. But I'm trying something new on this game that you weren't able to see on that video. Maybe I can send you an update later, but it kind of gives you the feel of having some cinematic approach to the VR game, and in that case, pacing is super important because you need to know where to correctly do the fade-ins, fade-outs, and where to let the player go everywhere,
Right.
or where to restrain the player mobility. That's actually quite quite difficult to do. Yeah, to do it right.
So what is while we're wrapping it up here, there's something really interesting actually happening with virtual reality right now. What is your take on, I believe it's Upload VR? There is a virtual reality conference that is hosted entirely in VR. It's a networked convention center. They've 3D modeled a convention center, and to
Okay.
participate in this conference, you have to have a VR headset and you attend it from your
Okay.
home.
Okay. I mean,
Yeah, right?
haven't heard about that before, but I mean, Oasis again, Ready Player One.
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
We're heading.
that's like the start of Ready Player One.
Yeah, we're kind of heading that way. I don't think everybody is going to be cool with it, like they weren't cool with it with Google Glasses
Right,
10
yeah,
years ago.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's gonna be
yeah.
interesting. I think it's hosted the end of January, this conference. I'll have to try and find the link for it. But yeah, it's they're expecting 20,000 people, and it's what's really interesting about it is the marketing opportunity, right? So you don't have any space. So how can can you justify charging the same amount to go to this event? Or could you make it free and then charge, promotional sponsors, and you just put their advertisements inside the VR?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of sounds like a crazy idea, but I mean, guys, if you uh, see a crazy idea like that, just please take a look at it, and maybe maybe you want to try to work on that idea,
Right?
and that actually works. And if it doesn't work, maybe it's at least it's fun to try.
No, that's awesome. I think, yeah, honestly, they say it every year for like the past 3 years that this is the year for AR and VR. And every year it gets more and more. And with this announcement of the Magic Leap, it's more hype is coming its way. So we're just about out of time. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in. I want to thank Carlos for coming on. If you're interested in
Thank you.
learning to make games, you can check out our course, The Ultimate Guide to Game Development with Unity. We have an English version as well as a Spanish version with other localizations on the way. So any last
Yeah.
words?
Well, no, thank you for having me. I hope you enjoy. I mean, you see all the Discord guys are on the course already,
Yeah.
So I hope you are enjoying that. And if I think there's some Spanish-speaking persons on the YouTube channel also, so I hope you are enjoying too. And I think that's it.
Very
If
cool.
you have any further questions, just feel free to contact me. I think. Yeah, you posted already my LinkedIn.
Yeah, all your links are there. If you want to find
yeah.
out more about Carlos, if you want to take the Spanish version of the course, all the links are in the description. If you want to see who's coming up on the show next week, as well as our lineup through February, you can go to gamedevjohn.com/events and you'll see our lineup. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye bye.